Hey, what's going on, everyone? You guys are tuned in to Urban Melody TV. I'm your host, Saul Maldonado, and today I have a special guest by the name of Victor Antonio. He's a motivational speaker, and his story goes from rags to riches. And we're going to talk about his upbringing in Chicago to where he is today, and his secret to success, or the steps that he took to get where he is today. Stay tuned. Grew up in Chicago.
Yep.
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
Welfare, food stamps.
Yep.
What was life growing up for you?
You know, it's one of those things you don't, I hate to say it because it sounds very cliché, but you didn't know you were poor. Once in a while, food was a little thin, maybe clothes weren't there, you couldn't have the clothes you wanted, not like today where you can buy clothes like that, So, it was food stamps, government cheese, the powdered milk. My mother and my father moved from Puerto Rico in the late 50s, somewhere in there. And I think my mother had a third grade education, my father had a fifth grade education, and when they got to Chicago, they didn't speak English. So you can tell already that their job prospects were limited. And so my mother and my father both had what I call black collar jobs. That means the job was so dirty, it was beyond blue collar. Do you know what I mean? It was they worked in a factory. It was just, let's just say OSHA standards weren't there yet. Right. And so it was really dirty. My mother injured herself, had several operations. After a while, she became disabled. She really couldn't work, Still can function, but just couldn't work. And so we really depended on my father's income and any type of assistance we could get from the government, food stamps, some of that we used. In the neighborhood itself, it was, we were near the Cabrini Green housing project, so the neighborhood was predominantly Hispanic and black, and a lot of gangs, a lot of violence, Latin Kings, Insane Unknowns, Disciples, Vice Lords, all those wonderful gangs, right? And so I never got mixed up in that, and people always ask me, how'd you manage to avoid that when you were in some of these neighborhoods? Because we lived in between where the Latin Kings lived and the Insane Unknowns, and there's always stuff going on, you can hear the shots in the alley once, clack, 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 you hear that, drug was all around us. And because I was so young all the time, right. And I was minding my business, plus I was that skinny kid people used to always pick on, right? And you're like, pendejito, get out of here. I was that guy, right? And so I was never I never tell people, I was that tough guy. Nope, not me, wasn't me. I was always the guy that just kind of, I was quiet. I was really an introvert. That's a surprising thing when I tell people, really, you were an introvert? I said, yeah, I was really quiet. And I just kind of did my thing. I liked sports at the time. I played baseball, basketball. I always wanted to join a baseball league, for example, but we couldn't afford uniforms. Right. I remember I wanted to be in Boy Scouts. My mother and my father didn't drive, so nobody would take me, and we couldn't afford the uniform. But there was a lot of stuff going on around that was just not healthy. And I just I just stayed away from it for some reason. I think also my mother had a lot to do with it, that chancleta, the smack if you do something wrong. So I was very afraid of my mother. And so I just stay out of trouble, and every time I got in trouble, she would slap me in the head, so that brought me back real quick.
Right. So at what point, what was the turning point for you to say, I don't want to be here?
The most honest answer I can give to that is that it was a gradual progression. By that I mean is, and I'll walk you through it real quickly. So, I graduated from 8th grade. You got to go to high school, right? So we're going to high school. My brother decides to drop out of high school, my older brother. My father says, well, if you're going to drop out of high school, you got to work at a factory, the black collar factory. So my brother decides to drop out of high school. Within about a year, he's like, he can't do it anymore. He doesn't want to do it anymore, but doesn't want to go back to school. My father says, well, you got to go find a job. And then he got married and moved on, right? And that was impactful to me because when I got to my 4th year in high school, the funny story there is I graduated 3rd in my class. Now, here's the interesting thing is I didn't know I was that high in terms of ranking because the only reason I maintained good grades is because every time I brought home bad grades, my mother would just slap me in the head. So I was always about the good grades and then going to hang out with the fellas, right? Playing basketball, baseball, whatever it is, flag football on the side type of thing. And so when I graduated from high school, my mother says, if you don't go to college, you got to go to work in the factory. So I always tell people that my primary motivating the factor, rather, in my life was really the fear of not going to work in a factory. And so that's when I decided, I'm going to college. And so that was the beginning. That was the motivator. Do you know what I mean? It was the fear of, I would love to tell you right now that, I stepped back and I looked at life and I said to myself, I need to be somebody. No, it didn't happen that way. It just didn't happen that way. It was all about, I really don't want to work at a factory. So sometimes in life, if you don't know what you want, at least define what you don't want, and just kind of move that stuff out of the way. And so I get to college. And so I get to college, and it's fascinating because, so I graduated third in my class. Yeah, right, all that. So I get to college, and that's when I think the big transformation happened. And this may sound, I'll try to keep it short, but it was the most significant pivot in my life. By this time, I'll explain. Our neighborhood was predominantly Hispanic and black, right? 50-50, pretty much down the middle, right? And so I was used to that bubble, that Hispanic black bubble, right? You're a minority. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Only white people get rich. Exactly. That conditioning in the neighborhood, success is not for you. Everybody else has everything, but this is where you're at. And all of a sudden, that's your place in life, right? When I get to college, now I become like a uber minority, like a super minority, right? Because now I'm one of the few Hispanics there. Most of the Hispanics that were there were some from Mexico, but a lot from Latin America, right? So now you realize, okay, now I'm around other Hispanics, but we're still, as a group, still a minority of the minority. Then you had, the majority was obviously white, Caucasian. Then you had blacks there, obviously. But then all of a sudden you had Asians. You had people from Europe there. You had people from the Middle East, from India. You had all of this. So now it's like a huge melting pot, right? And so I remember two things happened. The first thing that happened was my first year I realized I couldn't compete. See, I didn't go to private school. I didn't go to Catholic school. I thought I was doing good, graduating third in my class. I get to school, and I remember the first class I took was calculus. I'd never seen calculus before. Went to the next class, wrote my first English paper. Like, whoa, where'd you get this English from? How bad? It was horrible compared to their standards.
Right.
And so within the first week, maybe 2 weeks, I realized I couldn't compete. The public school system had failed me. I was third in my class. I can honestly say it failed me. And so when I get there, I now have to. After 2 weeks, I realize I have to drop all my classes, and have to take what I call pre-college courses. And that was like a blow, because now I'm behind. I'm already behind. So now I'm behind. Most people graduate in 4 years. It took me 5.5 years to graduate. So that was like a big blow to the ego. Like, damn, wow, that hurts. But the second thing, during that time, I meet this guy. This guy's name is Mike. Mike is white. Mike is poor. And Mike is white. And one day I said, Mike, you're white. How could you be poor? And he goes, what do you mean? And he goes, you never heard of poor white people? And as stupid as that example is, that was like a moment for me. It was like the beginning, what I call the anthropological shift, the culture shock. Because what he did, he had tapped the glass with a little hammer. He says, oh, your image of what you think life is wrong. And then from that point forward, you start discovering things, that not all white people are rich. Not all white people are successful. And again, this may sound like just naive,
right?
But you got to understand, 17, 18 years old, coming out of high school, you're living in a bubble, and all of a sudden you're exposed to this whole new world, and all of a sudden you realize now you're dealing with Caucasians, Indians from India, Latin Americans from Latin America all over, not the hood Latins, you know what I mean, type of thing. And so now you're dealing with this whole broad base. It's like, wow. And so going through college to me was, just an exceptional experience, man.
And I actually find it interesting, just like you said, and you actually lived it. If you don't know what you want, at least figure out what you don't want.
Yeah.
And just right now, you said that what triggered it is the fact that you met a poor white person and not a rich Latino.
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't, you didn't say, hey, there's a rich Latino, I can be him. It was more like, there's a white poor person.
Oh, here, I'll tell you something that's really interesting. People don't believe this, but when people tell me, what do you want, what was your motivation for going to college? What did you want to be when you want to grow up? He said I had a vision, an image in my head. And one day I'm walking down, it was Armitage in California, right? I'm walking down in Armitage, California. Now, Hispanic neighborhood, mostly, like I said, whatever, Latin Kings, Insane Unknowns, and some other groups, right? And so I see this white guy in a business suit at the bus stop. And I remember walking going, what? It's like spotting a white owl, a rare white owl. Like, where did he come from? And, he's lost. I'm telling myself, it's not perdido. This guy's lost. And he's lost. And I remember saying, I said, man, I wonder what he does. Because that's what I would like to do. I would like a job that has, you wear a suit. You know what I mean? I still remember that to this day. It just sits there in your subconscious. And so I guess that was also part of the motivating, I didn't want to work at the factory. I like the guys who are in the suit. What does he do? Right. But again, God, when you start seeing people you start seeing them for what they are. And you realize that when you're in the neighborhood, you've been indoctrinated into this mindset. You're Hispanic. Success is not for you. And then we tend to use it as a crutch, right? We tend to use it as an excuse. I'm Hispanic, poor me, poor me. Right. And we realize real quick in life, you can go ahead and feel sorry for yourself. That's not good. Yeah, no one else is. You know what I mean? So you can sit there and have your own pity party, right. But it doesn't work. And then, I think we've learned in life that after a while, you can only blame your environment so much. You can only blame your parents so much. Eventually, you have to man up or woman up and, take responsibility. And that's the way it is.
Exactly. And I grew up in South LA. Mm-hmm. And, of course, making, the right choice. Tough because of the environment. Yeah. And just like you said, I didn't know. People often ask me, they use the stereotypes of why people join gangs.
Right.
Poor neighborhood, broken family, but I didn't fit the stereotypes.
Right.
To this day, my parents are together.
Right.
There was the drug and alcohol abuse, and if I was poor, I didn't realize it.
Right.
Because
you just don't think about it.
I had shoes, I had clothes, I had food.
Yeah.
So today, for me to be sitting here with you, it's an honor.
Thank you, man. It's my pleasure again.
So, being president and CEO of a high-tech, multi-million-dollar company,
right?
Did you imagine that? Did you envision that when you were growing up?
No. And it started out because I went into sales first. And as we were talking earlier, that when I first started out, it was all about engineering, picking a direction. Once you pick a direction, it's like, that's kind of what I want to do. But the reality was, when I became an engineer, I realized I didn't like being an engineer. It's just something you go, I don't like doing this. I don't like sitting in front of a computer, typing, writing out programs, working with hardware. It all seemed really cool back in the day, in my mind. But when you actually do it day after day after day, I said, this is not for me. And then that's when I started begin to look at different things. After 2-3 years of not wanting to do it anymore, I kind of said, what else could I do? And so that's when I started looking at, I became a customer service rep. I moved around, became a supervisor for the test floor that they had. I went up to become an application engineer, and that's just a more glorified engineer, but you only put boxes together. You connect boxes. And then years later, I remember working for a company. I moved over as an application engineer to another company. And I remember they said they had a spot in Latin America. I said, hey man, you have a technical background, you speak Spanish, did you ever think about sales? And at that point I asked, well, how much do salespeople make? And when he told me, I was like, okay, I think I like this. And around that time, we had just had our first child, and my wife wanted to stay home. And so that's when I made the decision to go into sales. And that's when, to me, that was the beginning of my thing, right? Not the thing, the thing. Because when I was doing my thing, sales became my thing, right? And so I started selling, and I enjoyed it. And I got to travel all of Latin America, just really almost every country in Latin America I've been to, which was a blessing. And as I'm traveling to these places, I'm like, wow, kid from the hood, and I'm traveling. You know what I mean?
Smacked around.
Yeah, I got smacked around, the little pendejito that got smacked around. I said, it's why you laugh at me now type of thing. Right. How you like me now? And so it's all of a sudden, again, the more you travel, the more you see things, the more your brain just kind of expands and grows. You start seeing different things. And then I got very good at it, and then after that, I remember, just as a side note, because when we talk about education, we always worry about, we always think other people should educate us. And sometimes I think we miss that point where we have to take responsibility for our own education. Case in point is Toastmasters, which is a speaking organization. Every neighborhood has one, every area has one. And I joined that organization, and they'd have you do 10 speeches, which you can complete in 6 to 10, 12 months, depending on how fast or slow you want to go. But when I started doing those speeches and learning how to speak, it really helped me when it came to being a salesperson. But it also helped me when I was in a meeting with people, because now I knew how to structure something. I knew how to structure a speech. I knew how to structure what I wanted to say. And if you ask me, what is the one thing that's really just hyper-padded me in the success, it's my ability to communicate.
Right.
Now, the funny thing is that if you ask all my friends from back in the day, I was the pendejo introvert who hardly spoke.
Right.
And then somewhere in there, I just emerged out of my shell or something. I don't know what happened. I can't even explain it. But I realized that if you don't know how to communicate, If you really don't know how to communicate to people, somebody said, and I don't know the words, your language will determine your salary range. So if you're talking straight from the hood like yo, well, you're gonna get a yo salary.
Right.
So unless you learn how to talk right, so to speak, right? Speak correctly. That's the Georgia thing. If you learn how to speak correctly, communicate correctly, no slang, nothing, really communicate, then people see you different.
Right.
And it's funny how words that we use, words that we choose, impact other people, what we say, how we say it, impacts other people's perception of you. Exactly. And so people were seeing me like, God, and I remember doing presentations, and it got to the point where my bosses, now I'm in a corporation, I'm the only Puerto Rican there, and my bosses, every time we were doing a presentation, a customer was coming in for us to do a presentation for them, right? Customer visit. They said, well, who's going to do the presentation? Like, get Victor to do it. I was like, wow, it's like the designated hitter, get Victor to do it. And so I was like, I was the guy they would choose. Right. This is the most painful thing I always have to admit. But I'm also glad to admit it, because I think it shines a light on a reality. When people ask me, who helped you the most? If I look back in my career, if I look back, however you look back at your career is like a long line with events, right? The majority of people who helped me were white, Caucasian. I'm sorry, but not many Hispanics around to help me, right? I had one or two who did. But if I look at the majority of people who gave me what I call the major breaks that really made me, I would say they were white.
Now, why do you think that is?
Well, I think for me, people always ask me, why is it, Victor, that when I talk to you, I forget that you're Puerto Rican. I get that like you wouldn't believe so many times, right? I just forget. And so one of the things that we have to learn to do is, I hate boxes, man. Hispanics, blacks, Caucasians, I hate them. I just wish we'd get rid of them and just have one box called American, right? Bam, that's it. I don't look at people as like, you're white, you're black, you're Hispanic. I just don't do that anymore. I just look at people as people. And so one of the things that, I hate to see sometimes in the hood is that, say, well, the system's against me. What system? There is no system. It's called reality. And the reality is, this is what it is. You need to learn how to navigate it. Because the only color that matters in business is what? Green. That's it. But if you can help a company make money, they'll hire you. They will. At the end of the day, that's what they want. It's all about production. What do you bring to the table? Right. So instead of looking at the guy saying that, or people saying, or the system saying that the system's trying to keep me out, the question you should ask yourself is, why should the system let you in? What do you have to offer? And sometimes I think, we as Hispanics, and I'm not going to generalize, but sometimes we often make comments that, well, I don't get in, the system doesn't give us opportunities. It's almost like sitting in front of a stove and say, give me heat and I'll give you wood, type of thing. And I see that sometimes. It's no, you got to provide the wood. And the wood is your value. What do you bring to the table? Got to bring the wood and the matches, right? And then you get the heat. And so, to blame society, to blame the system, to blame anybody is irresponsible. And so when I see leaders in communities always saying stuff like, well, Hispanics and whites are not paid the same. Well, there's a reason. You know what I mean? But right. if you look at the details, I can tell you right now, who's the richest guy in the Northern Hemisphere?
Isn't it the Mexican guy?
Yeah, him, right? All these wireless companies. Okay, apparently he didn't get the memo on how he shouldn't have been rich, right? He didn't get the memo. He didn't get, hey, dude, you're not supposed to be doing that, right? Because it's business. And I think as soon as we start treating things as such, and expecting people to give us stuff all the time, it's just not going to work. And so every time I hear leaders talking about how we're disadvantaged, we're disenfranchised, I'm like, you're just feeding me the plantation mentality.
Exactly.
That to me is a plantation mentality. Like, you can never be that good. They're holding you down. Nobody's holding you down. You're the only change you have around your own brain. That's about it.
And this is why I wanted to sit down and have this interview with you. Like I said, I'm also from the hood, from the barrio. And I can share my story, number of times.
I'm sure it's very similar, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Until I took responsibility for my actions. Yeah. And the common thing that I get is, well, what do you know? You're lucky. You have your own company. You have your own production.
Yeah.
And it's like, what do you mean, what do I know?
What did I do? Just put a seed, add water, everything.
Well, you've had it easy. I had it easy. I made a choice.
That's what it is. That's the key word, by the way.
When I found you on the internet, I was like, I need to know who this man is. Yeah. I want to know his story. Mm-hmm. And the more that I share stories from individuals like yourself. I'm hoping to influence the youth that watch my videos,
Yeah.
so they too can understand. You know what?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of me making that choice.
It's a mindset. It
Is
really
it gonna
is.
be easy?
No.
Of course not.
Of course not. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But it is a mindset. And part of that mindset is making a choice. And you make a choice, and then you say, you know what? This is what I want to do. Here's what I want to do. And along the way, man, you're going to stumble. You're going to fall. You're going to hit some walls. People are going to say, don't do it. That's a dumb idea. Back in May 9th, 2001, 3:48 p.m. I got that sucker down, right?
Wow.
I decided to quit. And so now when I graduated from college, I was making $28,500 a year. It's less than $30,000. Back then, that was bank, if you know what I mean, right? So I was making good money. So, and I was moving up. I kept moving up. So let's say 15 years later, now I'm president of sales and marketing for this global company, $420 million company. My base salary now is $250,000 a year. Wow. Right? That's a lot of money, right?
Right?
Stock options, and if you had commissions on top of that, it was a nice package, right? But something in here said, I don't want to do this anymore. 15 years of this stuff, engineering and then sales. I don't want to do this anymore. So on May 9, 2001, 3:48 p.m., I remember calling the chairman up and says, I quit.
Wow.
And he says, Victor, you realize you lose everything. I said, yeah, I know. I realize that, but I just can't do it anymore. It's like you wake up in the morning, you don't know why your feet are hitting the floor anymore. And again, another major shift in my life. Now we had put some money away. This time we had put some money away. And I said, my wife said, what are you going to do? I said, well, I've always wanted to write books, right? And then go back to high schools and colleges and motivate the youth, right? And share the story. And that's how I wrote my book, The Logic of Success. And the first year, okay, $250 plus commissions, so it's a lot of money I'm making, right? So my first year as now an entrepreneur, my own business guy, right? For the first time ever, I'm not working for anybody. I'm doing me, right? I'm doing me. Man, my first year I make $17,000. 17, not 70, 17. What a fall, right? 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 And I'm like, oh my God, what? Because it starts hitting you like, what did I do? Because I was making, big bank, and now I'm making $17,000 a year. And I'm going, oh, remember but I made a choice.
Right.
I want to be a speaker. I can't do this anymore. I made a choice, conscious choice. Here's the mindset. I want to do this. So I made $17,000. I go, okay. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over there, right? So I decided, okay, so what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? So then I started studying other speakers. I started attending seminars, workshops, buying books, trying to figure out what do they do? How are these guys making more money, right? Second year, I made $56,000. I mean, not the best. Man, I'm climbing, right?
My wife's happy again.
Yeah, not yet. She went from to ooh. And so finally, the third year, I broke the six figures, right, over 100,000. And we've been good after that. But man, those first 3 years were scary because for the first time, I didn't work for anybody. And so when people say building a business is easy, I said, you have no idea, zero idea. Because once you start building stuff on your own, you realize, you're the finance guy, you're the marketing guy, you're the sales guy. At the end of the day, you're the janitor and the accounting guy. Right. And you're everything. And you're trying to manage things, you're trying to do things, and it's really hard. And you're working more than 9 to 5 because you're always working. Even when you go to sleep, you're thinking about, how do I do this?
Right.
But it all comes from saying, I want to do something different. But again, a lot of people talk about success. And it's funny, I get a lot of people who talk to me and say, Victor, I want to do what you do. I said, how can I help you? Because I made a decision not to be like everybody else.
Right.
Because when I used to, seek help, people were like, who are you?
Right.
I said, I'm not going to do that to people. I said, so when people call me up, I don't discourage them. I said, here's the deal. I said, if you want me to help you, I'll help you. But you got to walk through certain steps. First thing I always tell them is, okay, go join Toastmasters. Finish those first 10 speeches, and then come see me for your next instructions.
That's what I'm doing this week.
Right? There you go. Right? And so here's the interesting thing. Good for you. So here's the interesting thing. Not one person has ever called me back. What does that tell you? They don't really want it. They can't even complete the first task. See, they see me on stage, all the fans, and that's what they want. They want the image. It's like when people in the music industry, they want the image, but they don't realize some of these artists really work hard. They're very talented. You just see the filtered, glamorized version, but what goes on behind is a lot of work. This is no different. And so one of the things I've learned is that a lot of people talk about what they want to do, but very few take action, make a choice, a conscious choice to do it. But once you make the choice, just put the bodysuit on, because you're going to be taking blows left and right, because like anything else in life, again, we talked about adjusting your plans, right? And so I was doing a lot of motivational speaking early on, right? Then I wrote the book, I started speaking in high school, started speaking in colleges. And then I noticed that, I wasn't satisfied. I don't know why, but I needed to go back to my roots, which was sales, business, right? And so in 2008, I made a conscious decision. This is how if you want to become the best of the best, here's how you do it. It's a real simple secret, but you just got to have the discipline. In April 2008, I made a contract with myself. If you ever visit my house, I'll show you the contract I made with myself. It says from this day forward, I think it's April 8th, 2008, like 12:01 a.m. It was like midnight, right? I was in my office. And the contract says this: from this day forward, we will dedicate ourselves to becoming the best sales trainer in the market. So that is the commitment. Literally, it's signed. And I keep it in my drawer as a reminder. And so from that day on, I said, okay, now let me read everything on sales. If a new book comes out on sales, I read it. When you do something called the 10,000 hour rule, when you study something for 10,000 hours, you become an expert at it. Right. And something fascinating happens. See, a lot of people learn a lot of different things, right? Like 10 things, right? And they become what I call generalists. But the society, markets don't want generalists. They want specialists. People who are good at that one thing that they need to know. So when people think of me, they go, sales. That's all I want to think. One word. The sales guy. That guy. The guy does sales. That's all he does. So there's never confusion. I don't confuse the market. See, I figured out the matrix. Do you know what I mean? I figured out.
You see, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
This is
the emotional.
Yeah, this is the emotional. You figure out the matrix. So what I did, so I figured out that if I say sales, and I got about 600 videos on YouTube now. So let me start on sales. If you look at my earlier videos, they're cheesy. I was still learning, right? Because again, when you're first learning something, you're going to stumble. You're going to do stupid things. You're going to do horrible things. By that I mean the video's bad, the audio's bad, the information you get wasn't that great. But you become better at it. Right. You stick to it. After a year, I could have given up and said, okay, 1 year of videos, that's enough, right? No. Let's keep doing more videos. Now, I said, hey, I see all these people doing all these cool videos with the green screen, right? I said, well, maybe I should do a green screen video. How do you do that? I don't know. YouTube it. How do you do green screen? Right. So then I studied the videos, right? So then I took one of the rooms I had, my son moved out, and so I took his room, and we made a green screen studio. What paint do you use to paint the wall green? I don't know. Google it. Beautiful. Got the paint. I painted the wall. I painted the wall. Nobody painted it. I didn't hire anybody. I painted it. I need a lighting system. How do you work lighting system? What type of lighting system? You go, Google it. YouTube it, right? Hey. So I studied at home, okay, set up the lights. And then I got a side note, the light situation, it took me like 2 weeks to get it right. I was so frustrated. Now I did the video. What type of camera should I get? I can't keep using those flip cameras, right? Oh, studied up, decided to get a Nikon. Okay, get a Nikon. It's $800. It better be a good camera, right? Set the camera up, start filming. It's still not working out. Okay, maybe I need to learn how to use the software. So I'm using iMovie. Okay, well, this ain't going to cut it. Maybe you should use Final Cut Pro. It's an advanced software system. Whoa, it looks complicated. But maybe I should learn it. So I learned it, spend the weekends just working the program. So now I record my own videos, edit my own videos. I don't depend on anybody. Learned how to use Photoshop. Now, keep in mind, I can contract this out. Right. Give it to somebody to do. But I've learned that if you want to control your future, you got to control your brand.
Exactly.
And so what I did is I controlled my brand. So I'm about sales. When you see my videos, it's all about the orange and the gray, right? It's always the orange and the gray, all the time, right? And so I became that guy. But here's the interesting thing, just a side note, focus on this one. People told me, Victor, you're going to be a sales guy, right? But there's a lot of sales trainers out there already. In fact, there's too many sales trainers already. Why would you want to go into that? It's so competitive. To which I said, I don't care. Listen carefully. Amateurs compete, professionals create. That's my mantra. See, amateurs compete. I don't compete with anybody. Right. I just create. And I keep creating. And you better keep up, because you may be ahead of me. It's like the tortoise and the hare type of thing. I'm the tortoise. Right. And I knew I was already far behind. And so when I focused on sales, I started reading all the books on sales. I read all the top sales books. When the books come out, I read them, buy them, I Kindle them. And so I always have something with me to read. And so if you go to my house, there's always books in the queue ready to be read. And so I read about 3 or 4 books a month still. Still, most people say, Victor, you're an expert already. You don't need to read. I'm like, are you kidding me? There's things I don't know.
Right.
And so you never stop learning. But again, this is taking personal responsibility for the education. I didn't wait for anybody to teach me how to do video editing.
Right.
I didn't wait for anybody to teach me how to do podcasts. I didn't wait for anybody to teach me how to do sales. You just have to go out and figure it out yourself.
Right. Now, I'm sitting here with an individual, and I know I keep bringing it up, but just because it's intriguing to me,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that you're successful like you are, you were picked out of 500 sales managers
Mm-hmm.
by the president.
Yep.
What did that mean to you?
That was huge. But, I learned something, Sal, a long time ago, and you're not going to believe this. When I competed in Toastmasters, I started winning competitions, right? So I started getting these plaques, right? And so one day, and I can't tell you when it happened, but I'll say 10, 15 years ago, I threw them all away. Threw them all away, threw all my plaques away. If you come to my house, I have, as you know, a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and an MBA, right? You won't see those things on my wall. I said, I refuse to put rewards on my wall. You know what I mean? Now I'm not so callous. I don't throw them away, I just put them in a shelf. I have like a shelf, just put them up there. But here was my thinking back then. I don't need an external object to validate who I am. That's just my mindset. So when people say, hey, you're the top this, I'm like, thanks. But see, I don't want to buy into the hype. See, because in my mind, I look at myself as, when I leave this earth, when we talk about legacy, what body of work did you leave? See, that to me is the award.
Right.
So you got 600 videos, maybe going towards 1,000, right? Videos live on forever. So even after I'm gone, these videos will still be here. That means more to me than any metal wood object that anybody gives me with my name on it.
It's going to go in the box.
Right. It goes in the box. So right now, when people give me an award, I really, it's not that I don't care. I appreciate the gesture. I always say thank you. But I don't attach my ego to it, if you know what I mean. Right. To me, titles, awards, and stuff like that are great. But at the end of the day, this may sound callous, but I'd rather look at my bank account. You know what I mean? I like that number. I like that number right there. Right. Because that to me is like a scorecard, right? It's a scorecard. I'm doing what I love, and if I can make money doing what I love, and I can provide value to people, and they love it so much that they're willing to give me their money, value for value, the exchange, then I think that's the way to measure things in life. So I'm happy. One of the things I learned, if I can leave you with one thing, is that when you learn how to communicate, sell your idea, sell your passion, your idea, your vision, your enthusiasm, right? Not beyond products and services. You can sell goals, initiatives, and stuff like that. And people start seeing what you're selling and what you have to offer, that is what's going to carry you forward. But again, it's all language, it's all how you say things and how you position things with people. But yeah, I dig the world of speaking because, I get to meet a lot of people, travel a lot of places. But yeah, it's always humbling. To me, when I look at my hood pictures, that's what I was always like. Because you look at the distance, right? You look at the distance you traveled, and that to me is, can I tell you what, I had a moment.
Sure.
I had a moment. So this falls under just weird, but interesting. So I like Muay Thai fighting. Muay Thai, right? Kind of UFC on steroids type of thing, right? They're just a little bit. And so, I've liked it for many years, like 10, 15 years, right? So back in December, I get invited to Bangkok, right, to speak. Large corporation invited me to Bangkok, right? Great, going to Bangkok. And then it hits me, wow, this is the home of Muay Thai fighting, right? I said, man, I wonder if they have any tickets. Well, the lady, I remember going to the counter, the lady says, well, it's a special night, it's a big special event, da-da-da. I said, we have one ticket. I said, you want it? She goes, I go, yeah. She goes, what? I said, don't you want to know how much it costs? I go, no. I said, just let me have it, And it was only like $150. And it was ringside. Nice. So I'm like 7 feet from the ring, right? And so I'm watching 3 or 4 fights, and here's my point. That I'm sitting there, and then a moment hits me. And I said this to myself, I said, my God, I'm sitting in a stadium in Bangkok, Lumpini Stadium in Bangkok, watching a Muay Thai fight. This Puerto Rican from the hood is sitting here. And it was like, dude, it was a moment, man. Right. I can't describe it to you, but it was like, see, you asked me what's important, not awards. It's those moments when you realize, wow, how cool is this? But it's those moments at home or in that quiet space that you have
Right.
when you go, God, it paid off. It paid off. All that work paid off.
Yeah, you just answered my question. I was going to ask you. Do you ever go home and just sit there and
Once in a while it hits me. It hits me. It could hit me in moments like when I go down to my driveway to get the mail coming back. You look at the crib, you go, that's a nice crib.
you need a car to go from your house to your mail?
It's a long driveway. It's a long driveway. But it's like, you look at that and go, God, I own that.
Right.
I own that. And it hits me. And I'm living in one of the most upper, I guess, affluent neighborhoods in Georgia. And so it's like, wow. And so once in a while it hits you that you've done well.
As you know, my audience, a lot of them are English-speaking Latinos,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of Latinos, a lot of youth.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that may be in that environment, graffiti,
Mm-hmm.
gangs,
Mm-hmm.
rat-infested homes,
Yep.
what message can you give them?
The message is the mindset. It goes back to choice. It's almost like you have to stop. You know what I mean? Just stop what you're doing. Just kind of go. It's almost like, what do I want to do? You just have to stop, man. You know what I mean? You're doing your thug thizzle, man. You're hanging out on the corner in the body in the corrillo, the whole thing, man. And so you're doing all that. But then one day you realize, you get home, your wife, your girlfriend's pissed off, she's mad, things aren't going well, the bills aren't being paid. There should be a moment that you say, okay, something's got to change.
Right.
And as soon as you have that moment, you say, so what do we need to do? And, my advice to those who have girlfriends or a wife is to share that plan with your wife. This is one of the things I learned early on, is that when I included my wife in the planning, she was more into it. Now, by include, I just kind of let her know what was going on. Here's what I want to do. Here's why I want to do it. Here's what I think I can do with it. And here's what I will be doing to get there. Right? And my wife always kept me on the straight and narrow. Said, why are you doing that? You should be doing that, so stay focused on that. So she would scold me sometimes. But I also noticed that when things weren't going well, she was in the game with me. She was in with me. You know what I mean? Because she felt it. And so it wasn't that I got home and go, man, things aren't working out. I would talk to her, say, okay, well, I'm trying this, I'm trying that. And she would say, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you do that? And it was like this partnership. You know what I mean? We've been married 25 years, man. It's a great partnership. And that to me is key. When you got somebody in your corner all the time, it's kind of doesn't let you kind of wiggle. No, she gives me no wiggle room. She goes, no, don't do that. Just stay right there. And I'm like, okay, she's like, ugh. But if you're in that place where it's hard, man, you're not paying the bills, you're struggling all the time. Every month you got to worry about paying the bills. Your credit card debt's up. Your house, you're upside down on your house. All this stuff is just basically indicators that something has to change. Right. The thing is, you got to say, one, stop. Something has to change. And then do that self-evaluation. What can I do? What can I do to make money? What do I need to do? What would I like to do? So let's say, you want to open up a car shop. You want to paint or something, cars, right? Whatever it may be. I'm just throwing something out there, right? And so all of a sudden I said, okay, what are other people doing? But don't go look at the guy around the corner, because you want to compete with him and beat him.
Right.
What you go see is the people who are making bigger bank than that guy. So what are they doing? How do they do it? Maybe for the first year, you can't open up your own shop. So what do? You go get a job over there.
Right.
Oh, they won't hire anybody. So what? I'll work for free. Can I come in 2 to 3 hours every day to work for free just to learn the business? Be amazed how that little strategy works. And all of a sudden, you start learning the business. But if you really want to do it, you'll work for free. I'll put in 3 hours. I don't care. I used to hang out with speakers who were bigger than me. At the time, I think we're now kind of pairs, so that's kind of cool. But I used to carry their bags, so to speak. I used to help them set up the tables. I used to set up their microphones. I used to set up their laptops. Now, I'm sitting here going, I got an engineering degree, I got an MBA, I got all this experience, but I'm still doing all the legwork, carrying bags, carrying products for them. Didn't matter. I wanted to be around them. I wanted to understand it.
Right.
Once I understood, I said, okay, I get the game. I get the game. And so now I got the game, so I go do my thing. And so it's all about, the thing about the young folks in the hood, man, they know how to hustle, man. But you got to hustle with purpose. And that's the thing. You don't just hustle with purpose. What's the long-term game here? And I firmly believe anybody can make 6 figures if they wanted to. Right. I'm sorry, but you can. I can show you how to make 6 figures. You can make it. But the thing is, most people simply do not have the discipline to follow through. They'll give up after 6 months, a year, if that, because this ain't working. because they think it's a light switch. Success is not a light switch. It's a glide path. That's all it is.
Now, if my audience wants to see some of your videos or your website, what's that website?
I would just VictorAntonio.com, or just go on YouTube, VictorAntonio.com. If you really want to watch the full story, watch my documentary. It's called The Motivator. Just type in Victor Antonio, The Motivator on YouTube, and the movie comes up. And that really tells the full story.
Now, you have this little saying that you have.
Yeah, man.
To close off, first of all, I want to say once again, thank you.
You're very welcome, man. Enjoyed it. Hey, man. Enjoyed it.
I learned a lot. Just in here talking to you, learned a lot. I got an hour of your time for free.
You didn't charge you. That's right. That's right.
So, what you...
By the way, real quick, before I do the thing, is that the most important thing you did that most people don't do is you simply asked. Say, Victor, is there any way I can interview you whenever you're in town? Remember you asked about a year ago.
I did.
And so that is one of the key things that most people simply have to do.
And
sometimes we're too proud.
Yeah.
We don't want to ask.
I don't want to bother them. They seem busy.
Yeah,
why would he pay attention to me?
Right. And then so you planted that in my head about a year ago.
Yeah.
If you're ever on the West Coast, call me. And so when I got this gig in Los Angeles, I said, now I can do that thing. What's that guy's name? Oh, Sal, there he is. And so that's because you asked. And so that's the key thing. You got to ask in life. So what is the thing? Many years ago, I wanted to close out my speech, so I had to come up with my thing, something that captures it. So the thing goes like this. I pledge allegiance. Tell people to raise their finger like that. I pledge allegiance to my thing, right? And I said there's a fundamental difference between a thing and a thing. A thing is something you do but you don't like. A thing is something you love to do. And when you do something that you love to do, man, it's like this attraction kicks in. Everything comes towards you because you're doing your thing. So people say, put their fingers up in the air. I pledge allegiance to my thing. I will rise above doing what I love. I will make that dough doing what I know. And those who laugh can kiss my assets. There it is.